I finally understand why my daughter stopped trusting me. Her name is Emily. I don't know if she would want me saying that out loud, but I don't have many things left to hide. At this age, you stop pretending you don't see the truth. You sit with it. You let it speak. I used to think trust was something solid, something built once and kept forever. I was wrong. Now I sit in a small apartment with quiet walls and a clock that sounds louder than it should. I don't tell this story to make myself look better. There's no better left to look like. I tell it because I can see the shape of my life clearly now, and it's different from what I thought I was building. When you're young, you believe you're doing your best. That belief can hide a lot. I met Emily's mother when I was 26. I was steady, responsible, already working long hours at the accounting firm downtown. I believed in providing. That word meant something to me. My own father had been a factory man who came home tired and quiet, and I respected him for it. When Emily was born, I held her in the hospital room and made a promise I never said out loud. I would make sure she never worried about money. I would make sure she had opportunities I didn't. That seemed like love to me. In those early years I was around. I changed diapers. I rocked her to sleep when she had fevers. I remember her small hand wrapped around my finger, the way she would stare at me like I was the whole world. I don't think I understood how fragile that kind of trust is. As she grew, so did my responsibilities at work. Promotions came slowly, then all at once. With them came longer days. I would leave before she woke up and return after dinner. At first, she would wait for me by the window. I remember pulling into the driveway and seeing her silhouette against the glass. That image still hurts. I would walk in, tired but proud, and she would run to me with drawings or stories about her day. I listened, but not fully. My mind stayed at the office, turning over numbers, planning meetings. "Just a minute, sweetheart," I would say. "Let Daddy change his shirt." That minute stretched into years. It didn't feel like neglect. It felt like duty. I was building something for her. That's what I told myself. There were small moments I didn't notice at the time. She had a school play in 4th grade. I promised I'd be there. That afternoon, a client called with a problem that needed immediate attention. I told myself it would only take an hour. By the time I arrived at the auditorium, the lights were on, and parents were folding chairs. Emily stood near the stage, holding a paper crown in her hands. She didn't cry. She just said, "It's okay, Dad. You're busy." She was 9 years old, and she was already excusing me. I remember feeling a quick stab of guilt. I bought her ice cream on the way home. I told her I was proud of her. I thought that balanced things out. But trust doesn't work like a scale. You can't subtract absence with a treat. As a teenager, she stopped waiting by the window. She stayed in her room more. When I asked how school was, she gave short answers. I assumed it was normal. Teenagers pull away. That's what people say. One evening, I overheard her crying in the kitchen. She was on the phone with a friend, something about a boy who had embarrassed her. I stood in the hallway listening. I considered walking in. I didn't. I told myself she would come to me if she needed me. She didn't. Looking back, I see how often I chose comfort over connection. It was uncomfortable to step into her emotions. I didn't know what to say about heartbreak or insecurity. I knew how to solve problems. I didn't know how to sit with feelings, so I stayed in my lane. I paid tuition. I fixed the car. I kept the lights on. When she was 17, she told us she wanted to study art in college. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, reviewing brochures. I told her it wasn't practical. I said she needed something stable, something that would guarantee a future. She tried to argue. Her voice shook, but she tried. I shut it down with logic. "You'll thank me later," I said. That sentence still echoes in my mind. She changed her major to business administration. She graduated with good grades. I shook her hand at the ceremony and told her I was proud. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. After college, she moved to another city for work. We spoke on the phone every Sunday at first. Our conversations were polite, safe. "How's work?" I would ask. "Fine." "You eating well?" "Yes." There were long pauses we never filled. Then there was the engagement. She called to tell me she was going to marry a man named Daniel. I had met him only twice. He seemed quiet, thoughtful. Instead of saying I was happy for her, I asked about his salary. I asked about his long-term plans. I told her marriage required stability. She went silent on the other end of the line. "I know, Dad," she said. "I'm not a child." I don't remember apologizing. At the wedding, I gave a speech about responsibility and commitment. People clapped. Emily hugged me, but there was a distance in it, a carefulness. Trust doesn't disappear in a single moment. It thins. The real turning point came years later, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Emily was 34 when her mother was diagnosed with cancer. It happened quickly: treatments, hospital visits, the smell of antiseptic and fear. Emily flew home and stayed for weeks. She sat by her mother's bed, holding her hand, whispering things I couldn't hear. I handled the paperwork. I spoke to doctors. I focused on logistics. It felt like something I could control. One night, after a long day at the hospital, Emily and I sat in the kitchen. She looked exhausted. "I'm scared," she said quietly. It was the first time in years she had spoken to me like that. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to say the right thing, something strong, reassuring. Instead, I said, "We have to stay positive." She nodded, but her face closed. A week later, her mother passed away. At the funeral, Emily stood beside me, her hand in mine. I thought the shared grief would bring us closer. Grief can do that sometimes. But grief also reveals what's missing. After the funeral, she stayed a few more days. On her last night, she said something I'll never forget. "Dad, I don't know how to talk to you." I laughed lightly as if she had made a joke. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. "I don't feel like you see me." I told her that was ridiculous. I told her I had sacrificed everything for her. She didn't argue. She just said, "That's not what I needed." Then she left. It would take me years to understand that sentence. As time went on, our calls became less frequent. Birthdays were marked by brief messages. Holidays were polite visits. She shared less about her life. When she became pregnant with her first child, she told me in a group email, not a phone call, an email. I remember staring at the screen, feeling something sink inside me. When my grandson was born, I held him in the hospital room. Emily watched me carefully. I could feel it. At one point, I gave advice about feeding schedules. She smiled thinly and said, "We've got it, Dad." There was a wall there, built brick by brick over decades. I had supplied most of the materials. The clearest moment came when she was 42. She called one evening, her voice unsteady. "Dad, Daniel and I are having problems," she said. I sat up straight. Finally, I thought, she's coming to me. She explained the tension, the distance growing between them. She sounded tired, lost. I listened, truly listened, maybe for the first time. When she finished, I said, "Marriage is hard. You just have to push through." There was silence on the line. "I didn't call for a lecture," she said softly. "I'm not lecturing," I replied defensively. "I'm giving advice." "I don't need advice," she said. "I need my dad." That was the moment. I didn't know how to be that. We ended the call awkwardly. After that, she stopped confiding in me, completely. Years later, when her marriage ended in divorce, I heard about it from a relative. She hadn't told me. I told myself she was independent, private. That's how people are now. But the truth was simpler. She didn't trust me with her vulnerability. She had learned slowly and carefully that I would meet her emotions with correction instead of comfort. I had mistaken control for care. Now I sit here at 89, and I see it clearly. Trust is built in small moments, in listening without fixing, in showing up when it's inconvenient, in saying, "I don't know what to say, but I'm here." I thought providing was enough. I thought strength meant not bending. I thought love was demonstrated through sacrifice and discipline. I didn't understand that love also requires softness. There are things I cannot fix. I cannot go back to the school play. I cannot sit beside her teenage self and let her cry about that boy. I cannot redo the kitchen conversation about art school. Time has already closed those doors. Emily still visits sometimes. She brings my grandson, who is taller than I am now. She asks about my health. She makes sure the refrigerator is stocked. She is kind. But kindness is not the same as trust. We sit at the table and talk about safe things, the weather, her job, my medications. There are pauses between us that feel like years. A few months ago, I tried something different. She was washing dishes after dinner. I walked into the kitchen and said, "Emily, I think I understand something now." She kept her hands in the soapy water. "What's that, Dad?" "I think I spent your whole life trying to manage you instead of knowing you." Her shoulders stiffened. "I thought I was helping," I continued, "but I see now that I didn't listen, not really." She didn't turn around. For a long moment there was only the sound of running water. Then she said very quietly, "I wanted you to ask me how I felt, not what I was doing wrong." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm sorry," I said. It wasn't dramatic. There were no tears, just two adults in a kitchen, decades too late. She turned off the faucet and looked at me. Her eyes were tired, but softer than before. "I know you did your best," she said. That's the mercy children give their parents. They assume good intentions. But good intentions don't erase consequences. At 89, you count what remains. I don't have the strength I used to. My hands shake when I hold a cup of coffee. I wake up at night and wonder how many mornings are left. I don't need Emily to suddenly tell me everything. I don't expect that. Trust, once thinned, doesn't snap back into place. But I wish I had understood earlier that being a father wasn't about steering her life. It was about standing beside it. If you're listening to me now, I won't tell you what you must do. I have no authority left for that. I can only say what I learned too late. When your child comes to you with fear, resist the urge to solve it. When they make a choice you don't understand, ask about it before judging it. When they say they're scared, don't answer with strength alone. Sometimes they just want to know you can sit in the dark with them. I thought there would always be more time to soften, more time to say the right words. There isn't. Time moves quietly. It erodes things without announcement. One missed conversation, one dismissed feeling, one "you'll thank me later." And then one day, your daughter looks at you and says she doesn't know how to talk to you. That sentence doesn't leave. I don't tell this story to make Emily look distant. She isn't. She's careful. That's different. Careful people have learned something. At 89, I finally understand why my daughter stopped trusting me. She wasn't rejecting me. She was protecting herself from feeling unseen, from being corrected when she needed comfort. I loved her. I still do. But love without listening can feel like control. There are evenings now when I sit alone and replay small moments. The paper crown, the art brochures, the kitchen after the hospital. I don't punish myself. There's no point in that. I just let the memories settle where they belong. If this meant something to you, hold on to it gently. Think about the conversations you're postponing, the feelings you're brushing aside because you're tired or busy. I can't go back, but you might still be in the middle of it. As for me, I'll keep trying in small ways. A question asked differently, a pause held a little longer, a reminder to myself that presence matters more than perfection. My time is shorter now. I can feel it. When I look at Emily, I see not just my daughter, but the years I misunderstood. And I also see Grace. She still shows up. That has to be enough. I'm 89 years old, and this is the clearest thing I've ever understood. Trust isn't built by being right. It's built by being there. I learned that too late, and I'll carry that with me for whatever time I have left.